I was born into it. I'm a third-generation Oklahoma journalist. My dad and my grandpa bought the weekly in Waukomis up by Enid, and about 1950, my grandpa is in the Journalism Hall of Fame, 1991 posthumously, and that got me started. I worked from the age of 12 as a printer's devil. I did everything around the shop. I was a pretty good writer in school in English, and it came easy to me, so I didn't think about it. I went to OU. I thought about being a lawyer first, and that just kind of went away, but I wanted to be a history teacher. Well, right off the bat, I took a journalism course, and Louise Beard-Moore, who's also in the Journalism Hall of Fame, was the faculty supervisor for the Oklahoma Daily. And she took me aside and she says, "David," says, "I've been waiting my whole career to get somebody from Waukomis as a student." She was from the Waukomis Bison community. I didn't know that at the time. Anyway, she grew up there and she knew my grandpa. So I went to OU. I did stuff for the Oklahoma Daily. I was assistant sports editor. And that first day she took me aside, she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, "I'd like to be a history teacher." She says, "You know, today's news is tomorrow's history." I never had thought of that, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a cool deal. Anyway, she sent me on an assignment to a school there in Norman. Pulitzer Prize winner, poet and writer Robert Penn Warren was talking, and I was supposed to cover that. The first words out of his mouth were, "I look more like I do now than I did a minute ago." That stayed with me from that day to this. And I went back and wrote the story, and I couldn't figure out what a headline to write, so I used that quote as my headline. And Mrs. Moore came up to me and says, "That is a great headline. You've got people wanting to read that story." And right then I said, you know, I could probably do this. 3 professors I had at OU, Louise Beard-Moore, I took Foster Harris, I took a creative writing class, and Mr. Pete, Robert Pearson, he was a community journalism professor. They're all 3 in the Journalism Hall of Fame, and I loved all their stuff. But it was my grandpa. After I got out of college, I heard my dad told a story. My grandpa was at Granite as a sophomore in high school. At the end of the year, a teacher came up to him and says, "You're not going to amount to anything. You need to drop out of school." So he dropped out of school. His older brother joined the U.S. Navy in World War I. Went through that. He got out of the Navy. He went to OU for a while. He took journalism. Anyway, he ended up working at 14 newspapers, mostly during the Depression and the Second World War. Anyway, after he got out of the service, he went back to Granite School, finished his junior and senior years in 1 year, and was class valedictorian. So he went on to have a career. When somebody told him he couldn't do something, he did it. I have that same kind of mindset. I didn't realize it until I heard that story. Like my dad, I want to work on the last day of my life. I'm not going to retire. Christys don't retire. We just go home and go to sleep and don't wake up. I know it's kind of weird, but that's a legacy I have.